Hey neighbors, it's Jun and Yukai again, co-founders of Metablox. Today we want to talk to you about the MVP. Many of you on the Discord have been asking us, what the hell are we doing? Where can I buy a Blox? I want to buy this right now. So, first and foremost, we haven't launched yet. Second of all, the MVP is coming. It's going to come first week of February. We are still on track. And today we want to talk to you about the MVP and why it's important to get on the whitelist right now because of the implications of minting a Blox. How does that sound, Yukai?
That sounds great. And I also want to emphasize a little bit that we haven't launched, but we really started the project about 3 months ago. I've seen lots of NFT teams advise for them, and they take 6 to 8 months just to create the white paper. And we started 3 months ago, and we are launched the MVP this month, right? And next month, another version. So we're executing very fast. And I think this is very important because the potential of the NFT project is how well the team executes. And you can see no matter what, we execute quickly, we execute fast. Now, the quality of execution, right? How good is the white paper? How good is our MVP? You can judge by it for yourself. But I want to just emphasize, even though we haven't launched yet, we're moving in light speed.
Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. So high speed, high quality is the goal. And the screen share that I'm doing, I want to emphasize this is a prototype. It's going to get better and better as the weeks go by. But I want to describe to you what you're looking at. So on the map, you're basically seeing an overlay of the blocks that you can own. Right now, the green is going to represent a Blox that is available, and the red is going to represent a Blox that is not available. We can zoom in, we can zoom out, fine. So what you're going to do here is you can click on a Blox, and you can see what the tier is, what the generation is, what the Blox name is. Each Blox will have a number, and eventually you'll be able to name it yourself using MetaRent. This needs to be fixed. We'll improve the UX here. It also tells you how much MetaRent it can earn, the total MetaRent storage. I'm throwing a lot of terms at you. I'm thinking we're going to create a glossary on the white paper with all these terms so that you can more easily go and identify it. Also the price. Excuse me. So to mint a tier one Blox in the first phase is going to be $100. And we're going to talk about the phases in this video. Yeah. And you would hit reserve essentially.
June, why don't you explain what are tiers? What's a tier one?
Yes, so let's go to that. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. So there are 5 tiers in Metablox. It's going from the lowest tier is tier 1 and the highest tier is tier 5. Tier 1 is going to have the highest volume, the highest supply, of course, and the tier 5, the most rare, is going to have the least supply. The tiers are determined based on the proximity to a landmark. So in Metablox, what is meaningful is the memories give meaning, and the places in a city, in a location, is likely going to have the most volume and the highest meaningful memories closer to landmarks. So this is why you'll find the highest tiers probably close to the Golden Gate Bridge or Golden Gate Park or Lombard Street or the Painted Ladies or many of these other landmarks in San Francisco. So in the beginning, we won't really have a way for you to filter or search by tier. It'll mostly be a, whoops, that's a bug. It'll mostly be a scavenger hunt, so you can click around to see what tier. So this is a tier 1. This is also a tier 1. Man, this is still pretty buggy. I'm telling you, it's coming. It's getting better. But just wanted to show you that it's going to be progressing as these videos go by. So we're working really hard on this.
Yeah, and the reason why we chose the landmark is basically it's the ethos of Metablox. Right? A landmark is like a beacon of meaningful memories, history attached to a physical location. So that's why landmarks are the most. We talked about various ways of figuring the tiers. Should it be based on monetary value of the property itself? Estimation? Should it be random so everyone has a fair chance? And we realized that now if we're about meaningful memories attached to physical locations, landmarks represent. And I was just telling June the other day that the only way to keep a memory on forever is, number one, make it a national holiday, or create a physical place, right? A monument, a landmark, a historical site, and that memory stays forever. And that's the goal why we created Metablox, to make each location a place that could store these memories on the blockchain forever. And then, so June, why don't you explain, there's tier 1, tier 5, you talked about there's a supply difference. Are there anything else that's different between the tiers?
All right, so we have the tiers here. So there's quite a few differences beyond just the tier. Like, why own a high tier? I'm trying to find one.
They're so rare, you can't find them.
I know, right? I can't. So rare. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find one. Okay, so you look at the MetaRent. This is for a tier 1, 25 a day. Each tier is going to increase the amount of MetaRent that can be earned or can be generated by that Blox. So tier 2 generates more than tier 1. Tier 3, of course, more than tier 2, and etc. Tier 5 generates the most MetaRent. And this is important. Now, why is this important? Because with MetaRent, that's the in-game, in-platform currency where you can use for many different reasons. The most important of which is to bid for landmarks. So likely, don't hold us to it yet, but very likely our first landmark will be the Golden Gate Bridge. So in the Golden Gate Bridge, you won't be able to buy using fiat or using any crypto. You can only buy it using MetaRent. So the neighbors that are going to own the most MetaRent are likely going to be the ones that have bought the most Blox, or that have the highest tier Blox, or the ones that have leveled up their Blox the highest. Because the higher the level of your Blox, the more MetaRent that you can collect. Anything else on that, Yukai?
How do you level up a Blox?
That's a good question. Okay, so how do you level up a Blox? This is important. In most games, I keep talking about Axie Infinity, but it's just so popular and it's on top of my head. So like on Axie Infinity, you grind in the game and you play as much, and you spend so many hours of your life in the game in order to level up. And eventually, maybe not now because I don't think we have time for it, but I want Yukai to tell the story of his Diablo 2 experience and how that like changed his life forever. It's a blog post, maybe we'll link to it. But we don't want that. We don't want to be a game where it's consuming your life. And instead, what we want you to do is to go out in the real world and create those meaningful memories. And by adding those meaningful memories now to your Blox, by anchoring them to your Blox or rooting them, you're able to level up. But it's not just enough to root them to your Blox, but other people need a signal that it is meaningful, and we call those memory marks. So there's 4 memory marks?
Yep, 4 memory marks. So they're inspiring,
yes.
Heartwarming, hilarious, and solemn.
Is it hilarious? I thought it was funny.
It was funny, but I thought hilarious is funny.
Yeah, it does sound a lot better. Yeah. So, yes. You know what? I think this is a good segue. So as part of this, I want Yukai to present 2 aspects to it. One is the leveling up system, which is on the battle plan, and also the minting. It's going to extend the video, but whatever. That's great. I'll do show notes or whatever it's called, chapters on YouTube. So first, Yukai, let's talk about the minting.
I mean, we could do a separate video that says why should we mint early or reserve early or something like that.
I think this is what it's supposed to be, like the MVP and why you want to reserve.
Okay, this became more of a what is Metablox right. A bit more, yeah.
You're right. Okay. Anyways, so this is about the MVP and why you want to reserve. Okay, so reserving a tier. I'm just gonna click. My goodness. Oh, I found a tier 3. Look at that. Okay.
Nice.
Okay, a tier 3 Blox in phase 1 is $300. Okay. Now the important thing to remember is when you reserve, you will be able to get this phase 1 price, no matter what the percentage bought of San Francisco. I don't know if I said that correctly or that it makes sense, but basically you see this progress bar. At every 10% interval, the price to mint a Blox is going to go up by 1.5x. So this is important. That means that $300 tier 3 Blox in phase 1, in phase 2, it's going to become $450. So this is a great way to segue. Do you have the battle plan up?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so
I can share.
So I'm going to stop sharing here, so you can share yours, and let's describe. So again, the value. When you reserve, you're going to use your email to reserve. You can reserve up to 3 Blox, and then no matter what percentage taken of San Francisco, you will always be able to reserve it for the phase 1 price. So let's talk a little bit about that, Yukai, on all the phases, and more importantly, too, why are we increasing the price? Like, how does this benefit the community?
Yeah. So as you know, a huge thing about value is scarcity, right? And the reason why NFTs in general are more valuable is because it's not like you can infinitely duplicate. There's a limited amount, and so we're also very, very focused on making sure owners of Blox, Metablox NFT owners, have liquidity. They can of course have a return. That's always great, and just basically it will be sought after. So what we're doing is as the community gets owned more and more, San Francisco gets owned, more and more Blox gets owned, the price increase, like June said, and it's 50% each phase. So 100 gets to 150 to 25. When the region or city is 90% owned, a tier 1 is $3,800. Tier 5 starts at 500, right? So if you think about the 50% scaling, it increases much faster. So when it's 90% owned, a tier 5, if there are any left, right, would be 19,000. These are the mint price for it. And so there's a few reasons why this is useful for the community. So there's two scenarios, right? One is it limits the pool that's trading, or it increases the value of everyone owning it. So if you bought at Blox at tier 1 Blox at phase 1, $100, right? And let's say suddenly it's phase 5 now, 40% of the region's owned, and a tier 1, unminted tier 1 is 506. Now, this 506 tier 1 is number 1. It's not leveled up, so it's level 1. It's less desirable, right? It's also less sought after. It's a random place that no one cares about. The one that you got could be something that you care deeply about, so you're a nostalgic neighbor, you just want to protect the memory. Or it's a strategic one, like you got a famous person, Mark Zuckerberg's home, right? So that one is more sought after, more meaningful. So if the unminted Blox is 506, you should at least be able to sell your Blox at 506, right? Because you're instantly just better than everything in the market. Now, if you want to liquidate early and you sell for 400, it's even sweeter. So we wanted to make sure there's liquidity on the Blox owners that if they want to pass them to someone else, which later in the future we'll talk about generational ownership, which is very, very meaningful. It's there. Now, there is the scenario that let's say, hey, it's not as popular at that phase. Maybe it still needs time to grow. And 500 people already think it's already quite expensive. Then we actually just make sure for the existing owners, they can just trade the existing 30% inventory, right? So it'll be, the existing 30%, people can sell at 300, 400, 225, and means all higher than the 100. So, and that's the pool that's tradable. Only when there's a lot more people who want it, and they're like, oh, we don't want to sell at 330A, we want to sell it at above 500 or 600. That's when people going into minting new properties would make sense. And suddenly that would increase the pool of minted properties, and eventually it'll push it to the new phase. So generally, this is beneficial for the people who own it, and of course beneficial for people who commit to the experience early and join our vision early. Now, like June said, there are scenarios where what if during the reservation phase, suddenly, half of the NFTs are reserved, and people just get it. So for that, we don't want to punish people, say, hey, even though you joined before we launched the project and the minting, and but you reserved it early, but you just you saw that email late. You saw that, hey, we're minting days here. You saw the email that came in, and suddenly it's like phase 7 and it's expensive, right? So as long as you purchase the reservation, you're gonna get the phase 1 pricing. And then we'll see how popular that is afterwards. It could be, hey, the moment after that point, people have to buy it at a lot higher prices.
So I've been thinking about a strategy guide. I feel there can be a lot of strategy guides developed by Metablox. So there's a few scenarios that could happen. One is if there's going to be about 5,000 blocks, what could happen is all 5,000 are reserved during the MVP phase coming out in February, and then all of them are bought. So that means that everything is bought at the phase 1 price. Everything is sold out. Now that's maybe not as good for us because we're generating less revenue, but it's fantastic for the community, right? That means the NFT collection, right, sold out. So that means everyone's NFTs instantly increase in value just because everything is sold out. There's no more available. And then eventually we'll start different cities. A key component here is, though, because no other phases were launched, there's really no anchor to the price. So the price will just be what the market demands of it. Now, if I were thinking about what's the optimal way to do this, I think the neighbors would get up to phase 9, right? Up to 80% sold out, or maybe phase 10, right? 90% sold out. So everything they buy is at the phase 1 price. But then all of a sudden, once we fully launch the product and anybody can mint, now they have to buy at the phase 10 price. So instantly your $100 tier 1 Blox is now market price $3,844.
Yeah, I think that is strategic. I think that's very hard to execute on because you have to like band together. Like the whole community needs to say no more buying, right? No more buying. We're
just
at 90%.
Giving suggestions.
I think it's hard. I think from what a personal strategy could be is if it was up to me at least, I would try to I get the tier 5s in phase 1 because you can see the tier 5 scale much greater, right? Because so the tier 5s in later phases are really, really expensive. So I would try to get tier 5s as early as I can because they make a bigger difference than the tier 1s when they scale. But they do start off as more expensive base price, so it just depends, and they're harder to find. Like you're seeing, like it's like finding a rare Pokemon, right? A legendary. You have to first secure it before someone else, and then get it.
Yeah, this is awesome. Okay, so I don't want to run too long. We were supposed to make an under 10-minute video, and we're already at 15 minutes, so fantastic. So I just want to anchor this and close the loop here. So for the MVP, you won't be able to buy the blocks. What you're going to be able to do is reserve it using your email. You'll be able to reserve up to 3 blocks per email, and there will be ways for you to have a referral link to do some pretty cool things. I think what it'll be is you'll get a discount on the mint price by sending referrals, and we're still ironing out the details though. Yeah. Also, get on the whitelist. Right now, the whitelist has 5 different statuses. I'm going to go off the top of my head to see if I remember. But status 1 is early access to the reservation. So you'll be able to reserve before others. Status 2, I believe, is being able to reserve more than 3 blocks per email. I think it's possibly 5 or 6 blocks per email. And then status 3, 4, 5, it's some combination of a discount to your blocks price and then getting a random blocks that's less than tier 3. And then a random blocks greater than tier 3, so possibly a 4 or 5. And then the last one, status 5, also includes you will get a random drop of Metablox coin when we do mint that as well.
Great.
Cool. That's exciting. I'm excited. I don't know. How do you feel, Yuka?
I'm pretty excited. I mean, I want to get blocks myself, and even as co-founders, we have to follow the same rules of just using the reservation tool and paying the money. So no perks for, and we can't even join those competitions June just mentioned. So we're behind all the active Discord members.
We're behind, yeah.
Yeah. So but I'm excited to jump in and snatch up the places I consider strong, either because nostalgic value.
Which one would you buy? Which area would you buy?
I'm still doing research. I don't want to say it. People are going to snatch it up, and then I have to buy from them. Then I have to buy from them.
No, that's good. Different generation, right? You'll own the next generation. You get more MetaRent.
They know I'm doing well in life, so they're going to ask for a high price. Yeah, I don't want to do that. God. It's my secret. But yeah, if you can guess it, then good for you.
Last thing, I also want to end with if you don't have memories in San Francisco, why should you buy the blocks? So there was a couple questions asked about that, and ultimately there's a few things here. So one is the nostalgic neighbor, right, has those memories there. But if you don't have that nostalgia, if you haven't traveled to San Francisco, let's say, there's other ways to benefit from it. So one is you can buy blocks to get MetaRent, because by getting MetaRent, you're going to accumulate that MetaRent and then be able to bid for those landmarks, which are the most valuable pieces of property. 2, you will be able to submit a MetaRent bounty to get other people to submit memories to your blocks. So you can be a museum curator. Imagine buying a whole row of blocks and curating the memories in that community. Or imagine being able to own Golden Gate Bridge, even though maybe you've never even been there, but you can be the curator of the memories because other people will submit their meaningful memories to the Golden Gate Bridge, and you can approve or reject them. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, so we have 4 different neighbor types, ranging from high meaning on the top to industrious, so focusing on that capital increase asset appreciation on the bottom. And then on the left and right scale, the x-axis. On the left is more grassroots, like the individual, and the right is the scale. Somebody who has either more capital or who has, more capital, but somebody who's looking to buy more blocks, right? The museum curator is owning a plethora of blocks, or a real estate mogul is owning many, many blocks as well. Yuka, do you want to describe some of these neighbor types here?
Sure, if you don't mind video going a little bit longer again. There's just so much to talk about, like so many exciting things. Yeah. So like most good games, right, and good experiences, there's different ways to play it, and depending on how people. So like Richard Bartle's 4 player types has achievers, socialized, explorers, and killers. And so here, when we talk about the meaning side, those are the people who care about memories, right? So the nostalgic neighbor is like, hey, I own this place. This is the place that I had my first child, and I don't care about the MetaRent stuff. I don't care about if I pass it off to someone else or I buy new ones, I can generate more MetaRent. I just want to hold it and protect it, and I want to upload my memories so my children can see it. My grandchildren, I want to pass the Blox down to my grandchildren, and they can see these memories, right? So that's there, and that's one play style. And then there's the museum curator, which are people who's like, hey, we care about the whole community. We want to own as much of these blocks in the community. Maybe work together to say, hey, we don't want random stuff. Memories in the community. We want to showcase the best of our community, the culture here, what we enjoy. And so they're buying a lot of blocks, but it's also not for financial gain per se. It's really to allow people to come into and attaching to our AR future and whatnot. So people, when they experience that community, they're like, oh wow, this is the art they like, this is the memory, these are things that happened here. This was the mouse was invented in this community, let's say, right? That would be like really important for these people. Then we have the industrious people. They're here to like play the Monopoly game. They're really trying to make a gain, improve, and even if they're not trying to just cash out and be rich, it's just like playing the game of growth begets growth is fun. So you have the neighbor collective. So those are the individuals, grassroots people, right? They're buying 1 or 2 blocks, but they're strategically finding ones that they think would go up in value. Like I said, buying a celebrity's house, buying something that people think would have a lot of value. I think some people might wait for, when the reservation period ends and the minting starts, there's going to be a 48-hour period where people who reserve could actually mint it. But after 48 hours, if they don't mint it, it's released back to the public. So I think there'll be people who are just waiting for that 48-hour expiration time and just saying, okay, who didn't really pick up their reservations and quickly buy. So those are the neighbor collective. And then they can band together. These neighbors can band together into a collective also to for a bid for the landmarks. And then we have the real estate moguls, which are industrial scale. So those are the what people often call the whales. They're the people who can buy a lot of blocks, and they're going to utilize a lot of tools to create boosters. So we have what we call neighborhood bonus, which is if there are more blocks that are owned in a community, they all generate a bit more MetaRent. So this incentivizes either you owning more of the same community or you telling your friends to come together and buy together to be actual neighbors on Metablox. And so they'll try to optimize and try to build an empire and try to own the landmarks. And then we have a lot of mechanisms to talk about how the collectives and variety of mechanisms to how the little people can have fighting chances against the real estate moguls and whatnot. So everyone has a chance to win. This is usually the premise of a good game design experience, right? There's multiple ways to play the game, multiple strategies, but there's no one right way. There's all of these ways. If you do it well, if you execute well, you could still win, and you can still be better than others on that.
Yep, that's great, man. Thank you for describing that. Our 10-minute video has now turned into over a 20-minute video, but whatever. Nice. Whatever. I'm very happy about this. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Loving the neighborhood, loving the Discord. If you're new, I understand this is a lot of information, and we will eventually be creating some more beginner type, maybe explainer videos. But we will get there eventually. If anything, just find us on Discord. Ask us. We're very active on there. Find Yukon on Twitter. Find me on Twitter. We're available. All right. That's it.
All right. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
See you guys later. Bye.